My sister stood up in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner, tapped her wine glass with a fork to get everyone's attention, and announced in front of my entire family, "Candice, I need you to pay the $3,400 you owe in rent by midnight tonight, or this will be your last night in this building." Everyone at that table, my parents, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, they all nodded in agreement like she'd just said grace. My mother actually said, "It's only fair, you've been living here rent-free for too long." I sat there feeling my face burn with humiliation and rage, because I'd been paying rent every single month for 18 months. $3,400. Directly into my sister's account. $61,200 total. But here's what my sister Nicole didn't know. 3 days earlier, while looking for my birth certificate in my parents' file cabinet, I'd found something that made my blood run cold. The real property deed. The real mortgage documents. And a rental agreement that proved everything Nicole had told me about this house was a complete and total lie. I'm Candice, and this is the story of how my sister tried to scam me out of over $60,000, how my entire family sided with her, and how 3 words from my mouth destroyed her scheme in front of everyone. Let me take you back to where this nightmare started, because you need to understand how calculated and deliberate this fraud was. 18 months ago, I was living in an expensive apartment downtown, working as a marketing manager, doing well for myself. I'd been on my own since college, built my career independently, and was genuinely happy with my life. That's when Nicole called me with what she presented as an opportunity. She'd just bought a house, she said. A beautiful 3-bedroom property in a great neighborhood. She was planning to rent out one of the bedrooms to help cover the mortgage, and she wanted to offer it to me first before listing it publicly. Family discount, she said with that smile I'd trusted my whole life. $3,400 a month, all utilities included. Way better than what you're paying downtown, and you'd be helping me out with the mortgage. It's a win-win. $3,400 was actually more than I was currently paying, but the location was better, closer to my office, and the idea of helping my sister while getting a nice place to live seemed reasonable. I trusted her. She was my older sister. We'd been close growing up. Why would I question her? I signed what she called a simple rental agreement, just a 2-page document she'd printed out, nothing formal, she said, because we were family and didn't need all the legal complexity. I should have insisted on a proper lease. I should have asked to see the property deed. I should have done so many things differently. But I trusted her. That was my mistake. I moved in, started paying $3,400 on the first of every month, directly transferred to Nicole's bank account. I was a model tenant. Kept my space clean, never had loud parties, paid on time every single month without fail. For the first year, everything seemed fine. Nicole lived in the master bedroom, I had my bedroom, and the 3rd bedroom was her home office. We'd have dinner together occasionally, seemed like a functional sibling living arrangement. But about 6 months ago, things started to change. Nicole became more controlling. She started implementing house rules that felt less like roommate agreements and more like a landlord power trip. No guests without 24 hours notice. Quiet hours starting at 8 p.m. Kitchen access limited to specific times. I had to text her before using the washing machine. When I pushed back, she'd say, "My house, my rules. If you don't like it, you can leave." The phrase "my house" started appearing more and more. Never our home or the house, always my house. Possessive. Controlling. Then the rent increases started. 3 months ago, she announced rent was going up to $3,600. No explanation, no negotiation, just a demand. When I said that seemed excessive and we didn't have anything in writing about rent increases, she said, "I'm giving you family rates. Market rate for a room like this would be $4,500. You should be grateful." Grateful. I should be grateful to pay $3,600 a month to live with increasingly strict rules and a sister who treated me like a tenant she resented. But I paid it. Because finding a new place would be a hassle, and some part of me still wanted to believe this was just Nicole being stressed about finances, that things would get better. They didn't get better. They got worse. 2 months ago, Nicole started bringing up back rent she claimed I owed. She said that when I'd moved in, we'd agreed I'd help with utilities beyond the rent, but I'd never paid those. This was completely false. She'd explicitly said all utilities included when I moved in. But she was now claiming I owed an additional $400 a month for the entire time I'd lived there. We had a massive fight about it. I told her I'd never agreed to that she'd said utilities were included, that she was changing the terms after the fact. She got furious, accused me of being ungrateful and taking advantage of her generosity. "I've been letting you live in my house at below market rates," she screamed. "And this is the thanks I get? You questioning me about a few $100s in utilities? My house. Always my house." Last month, she actually presented me with an invoice. An itemized bill for 18 months of utilities, claiming I owed $7,200 in back payments. The numbers were clearly inflated. She was claiming the water bill alone was $200 a month for just the two of us. When I refused to pay what was obviously a fabricated bill, she threatened eviction. Said if I didn't pay the back utilities plus current rent, she'd have me legally removed from her property. That threat sent me into research mode. I started looking into tenant rights, eviction processes, rental agreements. And that's when I realized we didn't have a legally valid lease. What we had was a 2-page document that wouldn't hold up in any court because it was missing essential elements and hadn't been properly executed. I also realized Nicole had never given me a copy of any formal documentation about the property. No lease, no house rules in writing, nothing that would establish the legal parameters of our arrangement. 3 days before Thanksgiving, I needed my birth certificate for a work-related background check. I knew my parents kept all our important documents in their file cabinet, so I went to their house while they were out. My parents still lived in the house we grew up in, about 20 minutes away. I found my birth certificate easily. But as I was putting the files back, I saw a folder labeled Nicole Property Documents. Curious, because I'd never actually seen formal paperwork about her house purchase, I opened it. What I found made my hands shake with rage. The property deed. For the house I was living in. The house Nicole claimed she'd bought. Except the deed wasn't in Nicole's name. It was in our parents' names. Jointly owned by our mother and father. I pulled out more documents. The mortgage paperwork. Again, my parents' names. Not Nicole's. There was a promissory note, dated 3 years ago, showing that my parents had loaned Nicole $50,000 as a down payment assistance gift. But the actual property belonged to them. And then I found it. The real rental agreement. Not the 2-page joke Nicole had me sign. A comprehensive, legally proper lease agreement between my parents as landlords and Nicole as tenant. The monthly rent listed? $1,200. $1,200. Nicole was paying $1,200 a month to live in that house. And she was charging me $3,400. I kept digging, my heart pounding. There was another document, a text message exchange printed out, between Nicole and our mother. The texts were from 18 months ago, right when I'd moved in. Nicole, Candice agreed to move in. I'm charging her $3,400 a month. Mom, that seems high. What are you paying? Nicole, $1,200 to you guys. But she doesn't need to know that. I'm calling it my commission for managing the property. Mom, as long as you're paying us on time, what you charge her is your business. I photographed everything with my phone. Every document. Every page. Every text exchange that proved Nicole had been scamming me. The house wasn't hers. She was a tenant, just like me. But she'd lied and told me she owned it, charged me nearly 3 times what she was paying, and pocketed the difference. $61,200. That's how much I'd paid over 18 months. Nicole's actual rent to our parents for that same period? $21,600. She'd profited $39,600 from lying to me. I was shaking with rage and betrayal as I put everything back in the folder. I didn't confront anyone yet. I needed to think, needed to plan, needed to decide how to handle this. But 3 days later, at Thanksgiving dinner, Nicole made the decision for me. We were at my parents' house for Thanksgiving. The whole extended family was there. Nicole and I had driven there together from the house, the drive awkward and tense because we were still fighting about the fake utility bill she'd tried to make me pay. Dinner was the usual chaos of too many people, too much food, and too much wine. I was actually starting to relax, thinking maybe we'd get through the day without drama. Then Nicole stood up, tapped her wine glass, waited for everyone to quiet down and look at her. "I'm sorry to bring this up during a family gathering," she said, her voice dripping with fake reluctance, "but Candice and I have been having some issues with our living arrangement." My stomach dropped. She was really going to do this here? In front of everyone? I've been more than generous, letting her live in my house at below market rates. But she's been taking advantage. She owes me $3,400 in rent, plus $7,200 in back utilities. I've asked her multiple times to settle this debt, and she's refused. People were starting to look at me with disapproval. Nicole continued, playing the victim perfectly. "So I'm giving her one final chance. Pay the debt by midnight tonight, or this will be your last night in my building. I hate to do this, especially during the holidays, but I can't keep subsidizing her lifestyle while she disrespects me in my own home." The applause started. Actual applause. My aunt said, "Good for you, Nicole, setting boundaries." My uncle nodded approvingly, "Can't let family take advantage." My mother looked at me with disappointment and said, "Candice, this is embarrassing. Just pay your sister what you owe." My father, who I'd always thought was reasonable, added, "Nicole has been generous enough. It's only fair you contribute properly." I sat there, surrounded by my entire family, all of them believing Nicole's lies, all of them thinking I was the bad guy. The moocher. The ungrateful sister taking advantage of Nicole's kindness. And something inside me snapped. Not into sadness or tears. Into cold, crystal clear fury. I stood up slowly. The table went quiet, probably expecting me to apologize or argue or break down crying. Instead, I said calmly, "I'll be right back. I have something to show everyone." I walked out to my car, grabbed my laptop from my bag, and came back inside. I set it up on the dining room table, connected it to their TV so everyone could see the screen clearly. "Before I pay Nicole anything," I said, my voice steady despite the rage coursing through me, "I think everyone should see some documents I found." Nicole's face went pale. "Candice, what are you?" "I found these in Mom and Dad's file cabinet," I continued, opening the first image. "This is the property deed for the house Nicole and I live in. The house she told me she bought. Except, as you can all see, the owners listed here are not Nicole. They're Mom and Dad." The room went silent. I clicked to the next image. "Here's the mortgage. Also in Mom and Dad's names. Not Nicole's." Click. "Here's Nicole's lease agreement with Mom and Dad. Her monthly rent? $1,200. Click. And here are text messages between Nicole and Mom from 18 months ago, where Nicole admits she's charging me $3,400 a month while she only pays $1,200. She calls the difference her commission for managing the property." I turned to look at Nicole, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Then I looked at my parents. So to be clear, Nicole doesn't own that house. She's a tenant. Just like me. Except she's been lying to me for 18 months, charging me nearly triple what she actually pays, and pocketing almost $40,000 in profit. All while you two knew about it and said nothing. My mother opened her mouth, but no sound came out. My father looked at the screen, then at Nicole, then at me, his face a mixture of shock and guilt. I turned back to Nicole, who was now crying, trying to stammer out some excuse. And I said 3 words that silenced the entire room. This is fraud. The simplicity of those words hung in the air like a bomb that had just detonated. No yelling, no drama, just a statement of fact that everyone in that room understood the implications of. If you've ever been scammed by someone you trusted, if you've ever had family side against you when you were the victim, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what happens next shows exactly how to take your power back from people who think you're too trusting to fight back. The dinner table erupted. Everyone started talking at once. My aunt demanded to know if what I was saying was true. My uncle was asking my parents if they knew. Cousins were pulling out their phones to look up fraud laws. It was chaos. Nicole was crying harder now, trying to explain, it's not fraud, I was managing the property, I deserved compensation. You lied, I cut her off, my voice cold. You told me you owned the house. You created a fake rental agreement. You charged me rent based on that lie. You kept the difference. That's fraud. That's theft. That's potentially conspiracy, since Mom apparently knew about it. My mother finally found her voice. Candice, you're overreacting. Yes, Nicole was charging you more than she paid us, but she was managing everything, dealing with house maintenance. What maintenance? I demanded. What has she managed? I pay for everything I use. I clean my own space. The one time something broke, I fixed it myself because Nicole said she didn't have money for repairs. What exactly was she managing that justified a $2,200 monthly profit? Silence. Because there was no justification. My father tried a different approach. Candice, I understand you're upset, but this is family. We can work this out without throwing around legal terms. You're right, we can work this out, I said. Nicole can pay me back the $39,600 she stole from me. Or I can file a police report for fraud and theft, and we can let the courts work it out. You wouldn't, Nicole gasped. I'm your sister. You were my sister when you decided to scam me, I shot back. You were my sister when you lied to my face every single day for 18 months. You were my sister 30 minutes ago when you tried to humiliate me in front of our entire family over fake debts. So don't talk to me about family loyalty when you clearly have none. The room was silent now, everyone staring at Nicole, at my parents, at the evidence still displayed on the TV screen. The aunt who'd applauded earlier looked sick. The uncle who'd praised Nicole's boundaries looked uncomfortable. One of my younger cousins, barely 20, said quietly, "That's really messed up, Nicole." And that simple statement from a kid who'd looked up to Nicole somehow carried more weight than all my anger. Because it was just honest truth from someone with no agenda. Nicole tried one more time, her voice desperate. I needed the money. I have debts, I have expenses. Then get a better job. I shouted, my composure finally cracking. Take out a loan. Do literally anything except lie to your sister and steal from her. You made me think I was living in your house, made me feel grateful for your generosity, made me feel guilty for questioning you, all while robbing me. My mother tried to step in. Candice, lower your voice. No. I was done being quiet. You don't get to tell me to lower my voice. You knew. She told you what she was charging me, and you said it was fine. You let your daughter steal from your other daughter and said nothing. We didn't think of it as stealing, my father said weakly. We thought of it as Nicole finding a way to make ends meet. By committing fraud against her sister. I was shaking now, 18 months of accumulated frustration and betrayal pouring out. By lying and manipulating and taking advantage of my trust. And you enabled it. You're just as guilty as she is. The Thanksgiving dinner was completely destroyed now. Half the family had left the table. Some were arguing amongst themselves about whether what Nicole did was illegal or just unethical. Some were trying to defend Nicole, others were clearly disgusted by her actions. I started packing up my laptop. I'm leaving. Nicole, you have 72 hours to return the money you stole from me, or I'm filing a police report and a civil lawsuit. Mom and Dad, you're welcome to try to talk me out of it, but unless your plan involves holding Nicole accountable and getting me my money back, don't bother. I walked toward the door. Nicole followed me, still crying, grabbing my arm. Please, Candice, please don't do this. I'll pay you back. I promise. Just give me time. I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. This person I'd trusted, loved, lived with. This person who'd looked me in the eyes every single day while stealing from me. You've had 18 months, I said quietly. You could have come clean at any point. You could have apologized, worked out a payment plan, done literally anything to make it right. Instead, you doubled down. You tried to charge me for fake utilities. You threatened to evict me. You humiliated me in front of our family. You made your choices. Now live with the consequences. I pulled my arm free and left. Got in my car and drove back to the house that I now knew wasn't Nicole's. The house that belonged to my parents, where both Nicole and I were tenants, except she'd been pretending to own it. That night, I didn't sleep. I cataloged everything in my room, took photos of all my belongings, documented the condition of the space. I researched tenant rights, fraud laws, and how to file both criminal and civil complaints. I also started looking for a new place to live. Because regardless of what happened legally, I couldn't stay there. The trust was too destroyed, the betrayal too deep. The next morning, I consulted with a lawyer. Explained the entire situation, showed him all the documents, all the evidence. He looked through everything carefully and then told me what I already suspected. This is textbook fraud. She misrepresented herself as the property owner, created a fake rental agreement, and charged you rent based on those lies. The fact that she was pocketing the difference between what she charged you and what she actually paid is theft. You have an excellent case both criminally and civilly. What about my parents? I asked. They knew what she was doing. Their involvement is murkier. They didn't directly defraud you, though an argument could be made that they were complicit. But proving they actively participated versus just turning a blind eye would be harder. Your case is strongest against Nicole. I want to pursue it. Both the criminal charges and suing for the money back. He nodded. I'll draft the demand letter today. We'll give her the 72 hours you mentioned, and if she doesn't pay, we file everything. The demand letter was sent that afternoon. Nicole called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. My mother called, crying, begging me to reconsider. My father sent a long text about family forgiveness. I responded to neither. 72 hours passed. No payment came. No real apology, just more excuses and promises of eventual repayment if I'd just be patient. I filed everything. Police report for fraud and theft. Civil lawsuit for the return of the stolen money plus damages and legal fees. I also sent a formal notice to my parents that I was terminating any rental arrangement and would be moving out within 30 days. The legal process took months. Nicole tried to fight it at first, claiming our agreement was legitimate, that I'd known all along she was just renting, that the amount I paid was what we'd agreed to. But my evidence was overwhelming. The fake ownership claims in her text messages to me. The disparity between what she paid and what she charged me. The text exchange with our mother proving she knew she was overcharging me and actively concealing it. Nicole's lawyer eventually advised her to settle. She didn't have $39,000, but she had assets. She sold her car, took out a loan, and borrowed from our parents. Between various sources, I recovered $32,000 of the money she'd stolen. Not everything, but enough to feel like some justice had been served. The criminal case was harder. Prosecutors often don't pursue family fraud cases because families tend to resolve them privately. But I pushed hard, and eventually they charged her with theft by deception. She took a plea deal that included restitution, probation, and community service. My parents were furious with me. Not with Nicole for stealing, but with me for pressing charges. My mother actually said, "You destroyed your sister's life over money. How can you live with yourself?" I looked at her and said, "She destroyed our relationship by stealing from me for 18 months. I just held her accountable for her actions." If you can't see the difference, that explains a lot about why she thought this was okay. I moved out the following month into a beautiful one-bedroom apartment that cost me $2,200 a month, less than what Nicole had been charging me. The freedom of living alone, without lies, without someone monitoring my every move, was worth any price. Extended family was divided. Some people sided with Nicole and my parents, thinking I'd been too harsh, that family should handle things privately. Others quietly reached out to support me, saying they'd always thought Nicole's behavior toward me was controlling and wrong. 2 years later, I'd built a good life completely independent of my toxic family. I have minimal contact with my parents, mostly limited to brief text exchanges on holidays. Nicole and I don't speak at all. She tried to apologize about a year after everything went down, but it was clear she was more sorry about the consequences than about what she'd done. The relationship is dead, and I'm okay with that. Because I learned something valuable from this nightmare: trust has to be earned and maintained. Just because someone is family doesn't mean they get unlimited chances to hurt you. What Nicole did wasn't just about money, though the theft itself was significant. It was about power and control. She liked feeling superior to me, liked the secret knowledge that she was profiting off my trust, liked controlling where I lived and how I lived. And when I discovered the truth and fought back, she couldn't handle losing that power. Neither could my parents, who'd enabled her behavior and benefited from the money she was paying them. Some people think I went too far with the legal action. That I should have just moved out and cut contact without pursuing charges. But here's what they don't understand: if I'd done that, Nicole would have kept my money and faced zero consequences. She'd have moved on to scamming someone else, learned that she could get away with fraud. By pressing charges, by making her face legal consequences, I made sure she couldn't do this to the next person. The conviction on her record means any future landlords or financial institutions will see that she's committed fraud. It protects others from becoming her next victim. I'm not vengeful. I'm protective. I protected myself and potentially others from someone who proved she's willing to commit fraud against her own family. The money I did recover went partly to legal fees and partly to rebuilding my savings. The money I didn't recover I've written off as an expensive lesson in trusting the wrong person. Do I regret moving in with Nicole? Every day. Do I regret how I handled the situation once I discovered the truth? Not for a single second. Standing up in front of my family and exposing her fraud was terrifying. Filing police reports against my own sister was heartbreaking. Listening to my parents call me cruel and vindictive for refusing to let theft slide was painful. But all of that was worth it to reclaim my power, my dignity, and my right to demand accountability from people who hurt me. My name is Candice. My sister stole nearly $40,000 from me by lying about owning the house I lived in, and I made sure she faced every consequence the law allowed. I don't regret it. I'd do it again. Because protecting yourself from people who would exploit you isn't cruelty, it's self-preservation.